Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Sophie, and I'm here with Karen Neverland. Karen, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm so excited and so grateful to have you.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's exciting to get to meet you and just talk more about all these fun topics we're all just
Yeah.
about.
So today we're going to basically be talking about standing in your power and what does that mean? What does that look like? So, Karen, if you want to maybe start with how you maybe got to this point, how you started on this path or how it became your career, whatever angle you want to get at, just to give the viewers a little background on you, and then we can get into what does being in your power look like.
Yeah, sure. Um, my path was so messy. I never really had like a spirit guide or anybody to like teach me any of this stuff. I just kind of woke up one day and like looked around and went, I don't think this is all there is, as so many of us do. And I just started reading everything I could get my hands on. And I think for like maybe a 10-year period, I read like every spiritual text I could find. Like I just devoured them all. So that was my main teacher, really, was books. I tried to find the oldest books I could find, and just like try to just do that. And then other than that, I really just knew I had to find my way, not what everybody else was telling me to do. So I just learned that I had to ignore what the whole world was saying and really listen to my heart and follow that path. And it was really scary and it was really hard, and it did not lead me in easy directions. It was all very messy, and I threw away my life. I'd start over. I'd try that for a while, and then that wasn't it. So I'd throw that. I'd just completely throw it all away and start over every time. And I think I did that 4 or 5 times in a really big way before I really was like, okay, this is it. This is where I need to be. So I think that gave me a lot of personal strength, because I didn't really have an external source ever that was like pointing me really in the right direction. And then a big turning point was when I realized like the self-love, and that we can't just like listen to ourselves. We have to really like take that and embody that love of self, and then kind of like fill your own cup first, so that you can overflow to other people. So I wrote a book on self-love, and that was like really, I think, when I made that critical shift in myself to like being more in my power, on my path, not and realizing it not to listen to everybody else. So it
Wow.
was just it wasn't easy. That's for sure. It was a lot of wandering, lost, and trying to just piece all the things together.
Yeah, thanks for sharing about how, real it is, because I think oftentimes we can look at teachers or healers and see them as these beings who have it all together and they're at peace, and maybe they are, and that's beautiful, but it wasn't always that way. And it's definitely, healing is so real, and we can't skip through, any of the messy parts. And so thanks for sharing that. And it sounds like you just, as you said, you rewrote your life over and over again. That to me sounds like standing in your power, sort of having the remote control and deciding, and it's okay to try something that doesn't work, or to learn from that to guide you more specifically to where you're supposed to be. So I think that's also an important thing to remember, that even if something doesn't work out, it's bringing you closer to what will. So yeah. So I'd love to hear your sort of, not, I don't want to say definition because that's a little strict, but what you believe standing in your power is, and then maybe some specific ways that that can look. Because I think you said it yourself, not just understanding something, but embodying it. And I think that's like the biggest key. So yeah.
It's so, it's so much of life, I think, is just like trying to distract us and trying to pull us away, and really anchoring into your heart is hard, but that's where all your power is. It's all, that's when you're standing in your own truth, and you're really feeling that like heart resonance in everything that you do. It's really almost impossible, pretty much for anyone to pull you out of it once you've really dialed into that center, that like still center that you have, that knows what to do, that knows where to go. then it, there's still all the distractions, there's still all the challenges that everybody faces, but like then once you kind of have that inner knowing and sense of self, then the challenges just make a lot more sense. You know how to navigate through, and it's so hard to pull you out of that center once you've really pulled it in. So yeah, I mean, it's really just like at showing up every day and being like, what is my heart saying today? What is that, is it the same as yesterday? A lot of times it's different. What we did yesterday no longer serves us, and being present enough to know that your heart is saying it's no longer good for you. And that's really like if you stand in your heart like that, it's just like you kind of have a strength about you, because you know what you will do, what you won't do, what you'll stand for, what you won't stand for. Your boundaries are naturally, in place, like all these things, because you're feeling yourself, and you're not like, you're tuned in to yourself. And so nothing anybody else does is ever going to take that away from you once you've really done that. And that, I think that just when other people experience that in a person, when they haven't really felt that before, if it feels powerful to them, we sense that, like, oh, there's something about this person that they've got something figured out, and it's really just that they figured out themselves. You can feel that, like, that knowing inside. So yeah, I mean, there isn't really a trick, I think, to finding that. It really is just like a messy, showing up every day and being like, okay, this is what my journey looks like today. And it's today, maybe today it's hard, and, other days it won't be hard. But that daily showing up and practicing that, it becomes easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like what you were talking about, just listening to your heart, I feel like can at the beginning maybe involve a lot of letting go, like, of those external distractions or their external sources. And I think that can be, a huge step. Do you want to maybe talk about if that was hard for you at first, or maybe why it can be hard to let go of? I know for me it was, it's that huge jump from, looking to friends, looking to a partner, looking to family to get that validation or that guidance, and then just really, agreeing that our heart is our main guide and is connected to source and all of those things. So I want to just touch on that. It does involve realistically a lot of letting go and maybe making a lot of changes. And I'm just curious about, we don't want to convince people to do that, but it does take that leap of faith, I think, and it is easier said than done. Yeah, like letting go of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely let go of more than I would have thought in the beginning. It's been mostly letting go, really, because you're kind of dealt the hand of, whatever you get, whatever life deals you, and you, in following your heart, it's never gonna be what was given to you. The path that your heart is saying is always gonna be something different, and it's never gonna be easy. It's because if you're really being authentic and following what your heart's really saying, nobody's done it before. You're the only person
Yeah.
to do it. So there's no one else to follow. There's no one else to really like point the way. You can get guides and things that kind of like, but really, you're alone in what you're doing. And so you have to let go of, I mean, friends and family and some locations, jobs, all these things that are so, we're so used to having those like stable comforts, and the heart is not going to lead you in those directions. It's going to lead you in a completely new and different, somewhere fresh and different that you have no concept of like how to even face. And that's why you're going to grow. But then, once you've done that a few times and you've realized, okay, I can trust my heart, it does always lead me in the direction I want to be, even if it's not easy. Yeah, letting go is definitely like, that's number one on the spiritual journey, as even though that's hard. And but you just have to be willing to sacrifice everything, but know that your heart is going to give it all back in a way that is, it's going to lead you to the place where your heart is fulfilled if you follow it. And so even though you won't have all the material things a lot of the time, I even like lived out of my car for periods of times, and like was traveling, and like, I had a period where I was visiting some different sacred sites and just really like kind of finding my zen, and like, removed myself entirely from like the normal, like, routine of life. I had to make like a return to that, of course, after I'd done that like spiritual, questing. But that was all really scary. I was by myself, just like knew I had to like go to some of these places and have these experiences. And I had a really full life before all of that. I had friends, family. It wasn't that I wasn't content or I wasn't happy, but I just knew it wasn't what my heart was wanting me to do. And so then I had to, you have to be willing to sacrifice the things that your heart says, and it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah. I feel like one thing you touched upon that is so important to remember is that, yeah, your heart's going to be guiding you to something even more fulfilling, because a lot of the time these external sources are limiting, or there are, conditions, there are ways that it restricts us, or, it's based because you can be so attached. There is that fear there is like, it's only so much. So when you tap into your heart, or you love through your heart, or you're guided to those things with your heart, it's like that unconditional like freedom and like unconditional love. So it is, at the end of the day, like more fulfilling, because you're allowed to be who you are, and the love that you feel and receive, like, yeah, is unconditional. So I feel like oftentimes, yeah, as I was saying, that it's so hard to like, and you were saying to let go of those things, like we have to have that remembering that it will be so much more like nourishing on the other side. And also like having faith, as you said, and trusting is huge. Like for me, when I reach a point where I'm unsure or I'm upset about something, I just remember to like have that faith and trust that I am being guided, towards the right things. Also, I feel like a lot of that is like tuning into your body. I don't know if you had any specific practices, you maybe like upped your meditation or did certain things that, you know, you received that guidance from us, when you said you went to sacred sites. Like, were there any things you did to specifically to tap into that guidance? And or was it just, I mean, you already said like taking it day by day, that's so important too. Yeah.
Yeah. When I in my reading of all these sacred, texts and everything, I tried to find the common threads that kind of went through. I read like all the major religions. I tried to at least like touch upon some of their material, to try and just get an idea of what the common threads were. And that was actually what kind of motivated my first book, which is on self-love, because that was one of the common threads I really found, is that it's presence. It's, being aware. So definitely meditation has just been huge. I think you can't find that still center in yourself until you just stop and quiet everything. Because until then, the external world is so distracting. You just don't even know what's going on inside of yourself. Like you can't even tune in. You don't. And people say that all the time. I'm like, just tune into your heart, or like, where does all this information come from? I'm like, it's through the heart. But and they're like, I can't feel that. And it's like, well, you got to get really still and really quiet and for a long time. And so meditation is definitely, I mean, it's a daily practice. And it hasn't always been so like stable. At times it kind of ebbs and flows, but generally I do meditate every day. And it just gives me that stillness in the morning and moment to myself to remember who I am before I go out into the world and like have to do all the daily tasks of life, like, oh, you got like, work and all these things that are so mundane, but they're also teaching us something, and they're also, and if you're present in that meditative, kind of stillness, then you're going to know which direction to go in the moment. The daily tasks that are normally so draining, you're present and still learning in. So then it becomes part of your spiritual journey. Even just the normal, things that you have to do. And so like every opportunity or everything you do is like a learning opportunity, because you're being present in your life and showing up there. So meditation has been huge. And just more than that too is also like linking the breath through meditation has been really big. The spirit is the breath. It's that like, animating force, of us. And so when you breathe and you move your breath in your body differently, it awakens and affects the body differently, and it awakens, and so many people go through their whole life just like their lungs are just kind of frozen, or they're not deeply breathing, or they're even like shallow breathing and like like kind of anxious. And it's so amazing how the breath really does affect our consciousness state, and even just like doing a few deep breaths in the morning can be amazing to help kind of put you in your body. And that's really like kind of what yoga is about anyway. So I've always had like kind of a yoga practice as well. Meditation and yoga have both been very big, and that's more so than like as a workout. I do it as like the breath, linking that breath to the body. And in my teachings and things, I almost always give people breath work exercise, because that's huge, and you can change and you don't need anything. And that's what I really love about breath work, is like there's no outside thing. You can be anywhere, any place, any mood, anytime. You can be in the movie theater, wherever, and you can do breath work, and it will put you in your body, and help you. So those have really been big. I also love like essential oils and crystals and all the fun stuff too. But those are like more tools and things. And I think that they're more of just like a personal resonance that you feel and all that. I like them, so I use them. But I think more than anything, it's just been like breath work and meditation that have really opened a lot of my like kind of latent talent that was already there. Like we all have these kind of psychic gifts and things available, but it's not until you really like consciously start awakening that you really get those power, like the power kind of comes in, because you've got to have that sense of self, first, for it to really like to even be aware of what what's coming in. It's all so subtle. And so I think the rest of it just kind of came naturally as I was like living my life. I don't think there's been any one thing that was really, the thing that did it for me. It's like a really like meditation every morning, I think, is so essential. Even if you feel like you don't have time, it's like 5 minutes can do an amazing amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I love that you talked about breath work, because I feel like that is so, as you were saying, you can do it anywhere. You don't need any money to do it. You don't need anything. And I think remembering the wisdom that can come from our body is so important, because yeah, sometimes we don't even believe that we can receive so much wisdom from our body. I mean, our mind too, but sort of the linking of both, or them working in a relationship, is you can get so much from that. And I think I forget myself too how much comes to me. So meditating, and I'll like let it go for a few days, and I'm like, oh wait, there's so much to gain from it. And I also I think a lot of that is tied into being grounded, and I think a lot of standing in your power requires being grounded. And I feel like the practices that you mentioned really help us get grounded, because I feel like that's one of the most important things that we can do. I mean, the saying, stand our ground, that sounds like standing in your power. So I feel like, I don't know how much you work with like chakras and things like that, but I think like the root is like, so like getting that balance is maybe to give someone like a first step, or, an advice to stand in your power. I think, working on being balanced and grounded is so important. And I'd love to actually, if you want to talk more about your work and what you do, because I feel like it's so interesting. And also if you do anything with your chakras and things like that.
Yeah, actually one of the main things I do is light body assessments. That's one of like the most, probably one of the most, like one of my favorite things, I guess, that one of the services I offer. Because I'm through my own like meditation and tuning in, I've also learned how to tune in, and I've had quite a bit of training in Reiki. And so like, yeah, there's definitely, I can help with people to get a clear view of what's going on in their light body. And once you like know what's going on, it's really easy to be like, oh, this chakra is a little out, you just need to do this. And it's usually like the light body wants to be in alignment. Like that's what people think, we need to like heal people, but really the light body kind of it'll recalibrate back and be in, fully healthy, fully happy once we remove any blocks that kind of block it. So yeah, that's one of my favorite things, is that just helping people understand their light body, and that you can heal any, I mean, pretty much any illness. And it's, of course, there's still times you need to go to a doctor, but like there's like, as far as like I pretty much heal all my own stuff with just using energy. Like it just that conscious intent. And we know that we hear about placebo effect and all these things, like the power of the mind and all these things, but then it really is true once you like know what's going on in your light body and can learn to work with it. It becomes, you become aware of it yourself, and that's always my goal, is to help people become aware of their own light body, not just take my word for it. And that's really big for sure. I think that that's some of the critical work that a lot of people are starting to shift into, in this kind of like new paradigm. People are really becoming aware of their energy body and like how to use it. And I love what you said about the root. That's like, I would say 9 out of the 10 people that come to me, it's always rooting issues. It's always like, there's like, I want all these great like consciousness experiences, and I'm like, well, we're like a tree. If your roots don't go deep, your tree branches can't stretch very high. And so if you really want to have all these like psychic type experiences with these channels opening up, you got to root. Like that's number one. You can't have these roots going really deep. And so yeah, I even, and we forget the power of like conscious visualization. You really can just visualize roots growing down in your body into the ground, and like that's what your energy is going to do if you think that energy flows where attention goes, as they say. So once you if you focus on grounding and rooting yourself down into the planet, remembering that we're on a planet and that it is like here with us all the time. In fact, its energy is stronger than ours is. It's huge, and and yet we forget we're even on a planet, and that's being ungrounded. It's not realizing that we're here. And that's one thing a lot of spiritual practices really focus on like these upper like chakra states, these like expanding consciousness, but then they don't focus on rooting, so people don't have any sort of luck with it. Whereas like if you just focus on rooting, those upper channels kind of open naturally. You don't even have to really do anything. So meditation is amazing for grounding it. Like really, you're sitting in, you're just sitting in presence, sitting in your body. You're not like trying to go somewhere else with meditation. The goal is like to be here and feel yourself, be able to like feel the sensations. And the more present you are, the more you can hear, the more you can, like sometimes long distance stuff, you're like, did I just hear that? And like, because you're in that present state and you're picking up a lot more information than when you're just, when you're not like sitting in awareness like that. So yeah, I mean, definitely that rooting is number one. You got to make sure that you're in your body. A lot of practices focus on astral travel and all those things. I'm like, you're not really gonna leave your body like that until you feel safe and secure. And how many people in our culture feel safe and secure, and that's all root chakra work. That's all, until you feel that, you're not gonna have those like dreams and all these big like kind of fun experiences of consciousness that people are seeking. All of those come through being well rooted and feeling secure and safe in yourself and being anchored in your heart.
Yeah. I feel like the world would be so beautiful if everyone was grounded and felt safe and secure. Everything would just be so peaceful. And and I love the metaphor with the tree, because that's so true. Like the more deeper you're rooted, like the higher it can grow. And if it's not, it'll like topple over, so I love that. And also I love, I think it was maybe the question before this, but you just sort of painted a picture of like all of these little pieces come together, like both on your journey, but also, the things that we can do. And I feel like that's also so important to remember with, people that want to be in their power or want to be at a certain place. It's like, life isn't like just having one, special ceremony. Everything is perfect. Life is like the ebb and flow and all of these little pieces coming together. And I feel like even for myself, that's an important reminder, because we can sometimes, when things are going through a cycle or in like an ebb, we can get like disappointed. We can think that we're backtracking, but oftentimes things come up so that where we are now from our new perspective can, heal them or deal with them. So I feel like And you said you wrote a book on self-love, and I'm sure, you know, being kind and compassionate to yourself is important, is like self-love. So I think also just shedding a light on that and the importance of, you know, in these shifts, in growth, in trying all these things and finding our journey, you know, being understanding to ourselves that things are always gonna, you know, go back and forth. Do you want to talk maybe more about your book? Because that sounds so beautiful.
Yeah, that was I was really, really lost for a long time, just a long time. And I just kept seeking. I knew that there was something else. And so one time I went to the desert and I was kind of meditating and sitting there and I was like, my whole journey up to that point had just been working through my demons, you know, having all of these like parts of myself that I did not like, you know, at the time, different parts of me that I you know, seemed reactive and things. I just was realizing through, you know, just my growing awareness that there were a lot of parts of me that were not like conscious parts. They would just happen, and then I'd be like beat myself up over it, and you know, be upset. And so I just through all those spiritual texts found that like you really have to like find that sense of self-love, you know, inside. You know, even like Christianity says, you know, kingdom of God is within you. You know, it's like they all say the same thing, that there's like this inner realm that you have to like tap into and find. And so in that kind of quest to find all that, that motivated that first book. And in the desert, I was like, okay, I have to get all this down. And that was really the start of my spiritual journey, was like that, realizing I needed to write that book. And my whole culmination up to that point, because I had just wandered and done like I was like a jack of all trades and master of none, you know. I like tried everything and I wasn't good at anything. And I couldn't you know, everything, I would try it for a while and that wasn't right, and I'd give it all up and try something else, you know. And um yeah, the path meanders, and it's only when you get to the end that you see how all the pieces connect. I only really got there in like the past year and started to see how all the things that I had been exploring were starting to come together into this like complete path of like, oh, okay, now I'm teaching all this stuff that I was learning, and you know, that I was so lost. And it's like we kind of become what we needed, and what I needed at all those years was a teacher, and I never found one that was teaching the, you know, exact like heart lessons that I would, you know, the things that were calling to my heart. So I just kind of, that's what I kind of ended up becoming, just because I had to find that person myself. And so that's like, I know people always get so discouraged, they're like, I don't know why I'm here, you know. And it's like I had no idea, and it's still, you know, a work in progress. I'm not like at the end point, you know. It's always like, well, this is what I'm doing for right now, and it feels good right now, and my heart likes it, and you know, it's fulfilling. And so it'll keep it, you know, and then it will grow and expand, and then you have to let go when you've outgrown it, you know. And so so key is that letting go of what doesn't serve you anymore, even when you're afraid, you know, even when you're not certain where. You're like, my heart says I need to go here and I don't know why. And it's like, well, just trust me, you need to go there then, you know. And it's like, that's really hard to do. And really
Yeah.
it's just that like, you know, trusting yourself.
Yeah, and I think that reminder of like we can show up every day and just take it from there. Like we had already said that and I already forgot that. You know, it's like just such an important reminder, because especially in our culture in the US, it can be so easy to think about that you have to have it all figured out, that you have to know like your 5-year plan, or you have to know what you're doing for your life. Like, you know, I think showing up each day to serve yourself is the most powerful, because then you have the most energy towards your to give yourself, because you're just right there like in the moment ready to show up for yourself. And it's not to try and make the rest of your life perfect. It's just to wake up that day and make that choice to, you know, serve yourself and live from your heart. So thank you for those reminders, because I think that, you know, everyone can use those reminders like every day. So that's another thing, I think, just keeping like doing things like every single day that keep us in alignment or keep us remembering. And you mentioned books a lot. I know I love reading. Like I have to read at least a little something every day just to like keep that good energy flowing. And that's okay if we, that we need stuff every day. I mean, that's what helps raise our vibration even more, to just keep doing things every day. So I think that, yeah, sometimes like people can get overwhelmed or not know how they're gonna figure it all out, but just taking it day by day. And yeah. And is there anything else that you want to say about standing in your power, or just anything else you feel called to talk about?
I've been lost more than been found on this journey. It's a lot of just wandering and figuring it out. And I never really had a guide or anybody to kind of point me or even to know. And I still found my path. I never had anything external really help me. I only really, followed my heart, and I was very, fortunate to have that kind of sense of. I think that like God's spark has always kind of been alive in me. I think since I was a little kid, I remember always just kind of having that like awareness that there was something more than just the physical stuff going on, that there's like this whole inner realm. And so then I think I just was seeking answers for what that feeling inside of me was. And so that was, just something that I think is really important to find, in really making your power you have all the power you need. And it's hard because we have to work through all these trials and all these things, and mastering our shadows, and like all working through our trauma and all these just like really difficult parts of life. But it's worth it, because once you find that kind of inner spark, you realize that like you're already perfect. There's nothing you need to change. You just have that inner knowing of yourself, and that gives you courage. It gives you strength. It guides you. You don't feel lost anymore. Even as you're meandering through life, you don't feel lost, because you kind of like have yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I think that's number one. Before you can possibly just figure out why you're here, you've got to find that inner spark. And for a lot of people, they've been through a lot of really challenging things, and you just have to get still and silent until you can feel it, until you can like clear the distractions. And so it seems like we always, meditation's always the answer. And it's like, it's so easy to say that, but, it's the days when you're tired and you don't, you got to get up at 5 a.m. and go to work, and you got a long commute, and you don't want to get up and like meditate in the morning, and it's like, but those are the days it's most important, because those are the days you can really shift your vibration. You can really like, yeah, you do have a really low, frequency day, and it's going to be really hard. So you better start it out, with that high frequency intention of, just sitting with yourself for a little bit in the morning, even if it's like, we say meditation, and it's like, well, what does that even mean? It's just, silencing all the chatter in your mind, and trying to find that like stillness that is just, the gap between thoughts, that place where it's just, everything's just still, and everything just feels good. And even just like 30 seconds in that stillness, it's like, I mean, that's infinite space. So even if you're, you can only quiet the thoughts for like 30 seconds to get that stillness, it will feed you throughout the whole day, because you'll feel that divine connection, and remember that you're a God being. You're not like, you're not just like this you're not just in a meat suit, you have a whole like other part of yourself, but you have to tune in. It's not just gonna like show up in your life. You have to take the time and make the intention, and open that space inside of you to feel that and remember who you are. And I think that's most important. I think it's one of the main things that we've really gotten away from in our culture, is just like holding that space for yourself, just being still and silent, and not doing anything. We think we have to do something to like get enlightenment, or we have to do something to find happiness, but really it's like the lack of doing, finding that center first, and then you can kind of figure out how to live your life, from that space. But I think that's number one, is just finding that. And it does give you strength. It makes you feel powerful. It makes, because you're living, what your heart is saying when you're in that space. So I mean, that's really the trick. It's like, there's no trick. It's just showing up every day and giving yourself time to have a spiritual experience, even in the non-spiritual things, seemingly non-spiritual, like everything's spiritual. And it's just, everything's a lesson, everything's teaching you, and everything's perfect. Even when it's really hard, there is something to be learned out of everything. And just being present will show you that. It'll help you see those lessons so that we don't get so wrapped up in like the cycles of and reacting and like just, life just happens and it's hard. But if you're present, then you don't have those same challenges in the same way.
Yeah, that's so important. Thank you. Yeah, I love that. And I think, in a capitalist society, they don't want us to just be reliant on ourselves. They want us to be reliant on so many other things. But I guess that is what standing in your power is, knowing that you always can go back to yourself for anything, and you can get through anything from your own self, from your own guidance, and you always have that supporting you. So yeah, that's so important. And I love that. Yeah, even though it can be so difficult, at the end of the day, finding that stillness can be so simple, and doesn't have to involve anything fancy. It really is just always there for you, like waiting for you to tap in. So I love that, and that idea that it's always there for you. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of your stories and all of that wisdom, because I think that it'll really help, remind us of the innate power within us and our connection to the divine that can never go anywhere. It's just, maybe silencing a few things to get back to it. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited that we got a chance to talk about this, because I think it'll help really anyone and everyone, because we can always be more connected. We can always remember more. And yeah.
Yeah, part of my mission here is just to really, I kind of found myself, and at some point you just like, there's just an overall satisfaction in that. And I realized how, people around me were so outside of that. And so, we forget we even have power. We think it's like you said, in the outside things, in what we wear and what we, put on and all these things. And I had a period where I just I gave up everything. I didn't wear makeup, everything. It was like everything, just all the material things. I had to let them go for a while and like really remember who I was without them, and remember that like we all have that spark inside of us. It's always there, and the more you tune into it, the brighter it burns, and the more clear it gets, and the more that then it comes in with a voice and a knowing, and it just develops. And you're really just creating a relationship with yourself. And the more you do that, the more you'll feel that inner power that's already there. There's nothing that you need to do. There's nothing you need to achieve to find yourself or to find your power. And we're so often afraid of that word, like power, it's like we relate it to like, manipulation and control, but that's not really power. Those, real power is that like sense of self that like, just because no one can take that from you, no one can take that relationship you build with yourself, and you're always there. So if you build a relationship with yourself, then no matter where you go, your best friend is there with you. I always say my heart's my best friend. It's like, how much have you tuned in? How much have you listened to it? How much have you, relied on its guidance to point you in the right direction? All of that kind of creates this like power, and that's real power, because it's not something that can ever be taken once you find it. And that's so important to realize, that there is this kind of permanent, constant flow inside of us that we can all feel at any moment in time. And there's nothing that no other person can give that to you. We can kind of point you in the right direction and kind of help, but really it's just guiding you back to yourself over and over again. Most of that is just people, they keep trying to look outside, they keep trying to look at the future, they keep looking at the past, they keep all of these things out of the present moment, but this is the only moment we can actually do anything in. If you're looking in the future or past, you're giving away your power. You're saying that there's something that you don't have currently that you need, and that's not true. So it's the more you kind of step into that presence of self, you realize that there's just this force kind of guiding you at every given moment. And I think that's a big part of like mostly is just trying to help people realize that you're already there. There's nowhere else you need to get to. It's like you're the sun and there's clouds in front. You just kind of want to remove the clouds so we can see the light, but you already have that light. It's always there. The sun doesn't ever go out, it's always going. And that's kind of how ours is too. It's always lit. It's just if we can feel it or not, you know.
Mm.
We think we have to like turn on our light body and all these things, you know, and those are all metaphors to kind of help us understand these processes that are going on, but it's already there. It's already activated. You already have it. It's tuning in and learning to build a relationship with your own energy, with your heart, feeling yourself, and knowing who you are. It opens up all of that and gives you that sense of power. So you're not scared to go out. You're not scared to be yourself and to be authentic and to speak your truth, even if nobody agrees with you. You know, when I first started this, I was convinced everyone was just going to think I was crazy. You know, it was like, I'd never heard anyone else talking about a lot of the stuff I talk about. It was just very intuitive that I had come to it. And, you know, I just had to have that sense of self, knowing that what I had found had worked for me and that it could help other people too. And that takes the courage that the heart has. You know, the mind is never going to have that kind of courage. It's always going to tell you you're not good enough, that you can't do it, that there's always going to be some story or some, you know, idea why you're not good enough yet. You know, like there's always going to be that playing in the mind. And it's not, but the heart never says that. The heart's always like, yep, this is where we need to be. So that's been a big part, is just realizing we all have power all the time and really just tuning into that fact. And it's okay to be powerful too. You know, it's not, power is not manipulation. It's not control. Love is the most powerful thing. And finding that love in yourself so that you can then share it with other people is real power, I feel.
Wow, you said so many beautiful things and so much wisdom in that. I feel like that last chunk I'm going to replay again and again. So thank you so much. That was,
Thank
yeah,
you.
that was amazing. So thanks so much. And yeah, I'm so grateful you were here with me today.
Yeah, thank you. I had a wonderful time.
I'm glad. Bye.
Bye.